no one warned me that I was about to get wrecked by John Fawcett's 2000 cult favorite horror, Ginger Snaps. This movie has been a regular recommendation for 2 decades, yet somehow no one spoiled that heartbreaking ending. I'm very angry at myself for waiting so many years to experience this masterpiece. Also, I noticed something weird about the beginning. I'll release an Overthinking It theory video about why and how Ginger was not really infected when she was attacked by the werewolf. Meantime, to the breakdown. The timestamps for every sequence can be found in the comment section for your viewing pleasure. Now, let's begin. We start, as always, with a focus on our protagonist, specifically their personality, their inner conflict, and their situation. An unknown creature is killing and eating neighborhood dogs, while sisters Bridget and Ginger plan their double suicides, and they obsess over death and dying, that final stage of life. Next, we examine where, why, and how our protagonists exist in their world, with a focus on why they don't quite fit in. Teachers and faculty are appalled at the morbid sisters, and pretty much everyone else rejects them as creepy pariahs. Yet Brigitte's fascination with death falters when confronted with the real thing. Then a brief event happens, one that's never happened before. It's destined to lead all the characters away from their status quo. Ginger pushes Brigitte into revenge against Trina by weaponizing their morbid hobby to teach her a lesson, which leads us to examine the effect of that something new to the status quo, specifically what's different now and what remains the same. Ginger props herself up as Brigitte's guardian, beyond co-conspirator, and we witness the awkward family dynamic where the sisters don't fit in either. Then Pamela predicts the advent of Ginger's first period. We move along to the discovery that things are less than ideal, or else we explore how badly things are. Both scenarios are common. Tension simmers between the sisters, stemming from Ginger's aggressive persona, who stumble onto a very, very fresh kill. Then Ginger receives her first period while unprepared in the park, and the smell of blood attracts the skittish werewolf from hiding. Next, our characters dedicate their effort to a specified goal, and this is always narrower in scope than what the third act will demand. Bridget protects her sister by beating the creature with her Polaroid. Then Sam hits and kills the werewolf, starting his involvement. And Ginger, manic and desperate, fights to keep herself together. Then we run through a brief checklist of the main story elements that we can expect during this journey. The mysteries around the infection, the analog to puberty, menstruation, and sex, Ginger's many behavioral changes, and of course, the help and expertise of 90s stoner archetype, Sam. Which brings us to the brief event that launches our characters into the wild jungle of the second act. It's also called the oh shit moment. Ginger's wound has not only improved, but has begun to sprout wolf hairs. Oh shit. We follow our characters as they discover the new rules and expectations of their journey. These are always distinct to the narrative at play. Bridget and Ginger seek answers, using menstruation as a guideline, while Ginger begins to lose control of her increasingly aggressive temper, and a distance widens a little further between the once inseparable sisters. Next, our characters showcase their ability to grow and progress, and this is typically an external or physical beat rather than internal or emotional. Bridget studies werewolf legend and studies her infected sister, who finds a brand new confidence in her own presence. Then Sam signals his willingness to help a now solo Bridget. Then our characters face legitimate and understandable reasons to deviate from their stated convictions, agendas, or desires. Ginger develops the base of a tale, her curse now entering body horror, and Sam reveals that this werewolf story is playing by its own set of rules, not Hollywood's, rendering Bridget's research useless. And she faces the prospect of her own first period, though she suspects it will play out differently than Ginger's. We endure the anxiety as our characters face an escalation of problems and complications. Ginger descends into a new level of aggressive animalistic behavior and confesses to being horny for carnage, while Norman's death is revealed to be her first feeding frenzy. Then we struggle through an intense home piercing. Seriously, Game of Thrones has nothing on this scene. Next, our characters evolve internally or emotionally, and they do this by using elements of the plot or story, which they've gathered and learned so far. Ginger regains some control over herself, shown by the taping down of her tail, and Bridget struggles to keep Sam's involvement secret. Then Ginger steps up as her sister's guardian like she failed to before, while Jason's transformation begins like an STD. Then our journey-weary characters come to terms with their ongoing struggles. Moments and elements of the first act are used to gauge their progress. Brigette asserts herself over Ginger, flipping their Act 1 dynamic, and the Act 1 creature research narrows into possible answers. The Act 1 body horror evolves into subhuman alterations, while Ginger's Act 1 sense of control entirely evaporates when she relishes in the psychotic while threatening Trina, which results in a brief event that strikes at our protagonist's core conflict. Ginger causes the accidental death of an innocent person, escalating the stakes for returning to a human. And there's no turning back from here. We receive needed answers alongside our characters, which relate to both their external journeys and their internal conflicts. The sisters adopt their original personas to help cover up Trina's death, and they face the realization that a werewolf infection is not controllable. Next, our characters complete their narrow scope objective, yet discover that their victory is shallow or altogether meaningless and must complete a wider scope objective. Ginger finds relief in shrugging off her family and alibis, but it widens the rift between the sisters. Sam's missing plant is found ahead of schedule, but it could just as easily kill as cure. Bridget tries to protect Ginger from full transformation, but it's becoming necessary to protect her against herself too. Then our characters face an existential conflict that wounds their sense of self and identity or their physical journey. Bridget barricades her sister to keep her isolated and safe, betraying Ginger's trust. Sam reveals that his cure could be deadly since it was impossible to synthesize the right dosage. Then he works by montage, kinda like he's done this or heroin before. We celebrate with our protagonist in light of an undeniable win, which is always related to the rebirth in some way. Sam hands off the cure, at least as best as he can manufacture, and Bridget successfully cures Jason of his infection. Next, our characters suffer a grand loss. This is always connected to their newfound inability to quit their journey. Ginger kills again, claiming she did it out of protection, while their parents find Trina's severed fingers. Then the nice, innocent janitor stumbles onto Ginger and her kill. Then we experience a thematic freefall, as the main story elements are ramped up and thrown into upheaval. Ginger toys with and murders the innocent janitor, and spirals deeper into her bloodlust, physically and psychologically. But Bridget rejects the direction her sister isn't fighting against, which forces us into a brief event that robs our protagonist of seemingly any hope of success. Pamela uncovers Trina's body, revealing the depth of her daughter's crimes. We watch our characters realize that they cannot return to their first act selves, and they turn to face the wider scope objective. Pamela proves herself very accepting and ready to start a brand new life elsewhere, while Ginger tries to infect Sam as a means to answer her sister's betrayal. But Bridget infects herself in solidarity and to rein in the rampaging monster. Then Sam complicates everything by playing the responsible hero. Next, our characters use the major swings of the story and their personal journeys to move towards the climax. Another Fitz sister begins her early transformation, while Ginger fully transforms into the creature that attacked her. She escapes captivity yet again, just like the bathroom, Then Sam performs his chemistry in the tight confines of a closet. Then the final confrontation plays out between our protagonist and characters against the antagonistic force. Bridget begins to haunt the creature in the darkness, alone and vulnerable. Ginger Wolf is revealed, and the practical effects are way better than I expected. Then Bridget plays her role again, trying anything to get within stabbing distance of Ginger, which culminates in a brief moment where our protagonist finally, and oftentimes metaphorically, overcomes their place in the Act 1 status quo. In the face of certain death, Bridget rejects everything Ginger has become, finally separating herself for good from her sister. We experience the direct aftermath of the climax. This can give our characters a moment to reflect on the situation, or else wind down the action with a coda. Ginger Wolf kills Sam out of retaliation. Then Bridget scrambles to retrieve the dropped cure. Next, we touch base with additional characters, typically to contrast them against the new status quo. The sisters face off, revealing the loss of their bond in the very basement where it began. And Bridget rejects the suicide pact, revealing that she wants to live. Then Ginger Wolf is stabbed by the knife and begins to bleed out. Then we conclude with a tight focus on our protagonist, specifically to contrast them against how we met them at the opening. Bridget mourns the loss of Ginger as the monster bleeds out, and she does not let her sister die alone, which is all she ever really wanted. And there you have it. John Fawcett's 2000 heartbreaking horror Ginger Snaps adheres perfectly to the 29-point story structure every step of the way. And hopefully one day soon, I'll recover emotionally from that painful and poetic ending. Now, let's move on from the complications of a supernatural infection to the complications of a superhero infection, with my deep dive into Jane Foster's return to the MCU. Join me next time for Alan Taylor's 2013 Asgardian sequel, Thor: The Dark World. As always, thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this content, and consider commenting on and sharing this video to help the channel find its audience. Take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk at you next time.